Right, we're back. Episode 28. Chris is back in the house. I won't say that he's been away. Well, he's been away, but he's also a bit of a power outage. So Queensland's been a bit nuts recently. For those that don't know, those are outside the country. But your power's back on.
Yes, and in the first time in recorded history, southeast Queensland had their first official tornado.
Oh wow, it was officially a tornado. What constitutes a tornado? What speed winds?
Well, it was it's the Fujita scale or whatever they call it in the United States. It goes from Category 1 through to Category 5,
Mm-hmm.
and is measured by the wind speed.
Yeah.
This got to a Category 2. Now,
Wow. What's the wind speed of that?
it was up to 200 kilometres an hour.
Wow.
It snapped on the hammer cage at our track. The big bolts that are bolted into concrete blocks, it snapped them.
Wow.
And it relocated a couple of the big high jump mats, which weigh over 100 kilos. It relocated them from one end of the track to the other and bent them in half.
Wow. So you've got the full force of that locally near where you are.
It hit right. I face Tambourine Mountain, as you know. It came straight at me. Yep.
Wow.
And it hit Helens Vale. And if you saw, we were driving around. It's not that one or two trees were down. All the trees were flat. It was like a bomb went off and just flattened everything. All the I was driving around trees and big ones that were all over the roads.
It's like I never got caught in Florida in Miami with I got stuck one year in Vegas and I couldn't get back because they weren't that bad, but we lived on the water. And you never went to my place in Florida, did you?
No,
Miami, no. So I lived on one of the canals and literally had a jetty. And the one thing they were talking about was the water rising, the high tide. And our jetty was only about 3 feet below us, American speak. And so I had to call people to say, go around to my place. There's the keys under the mat. Go inside and put all the furniture and the TV and everything that's on the floor up on the kitchen benches and the table, because we were fully expecting that the surge, we'd actually get water inside the apartment, but it didn't come in. But yeah, that's pretty crazy. That's full Florida stuff, that sort of speed.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know when it gets to a Category 4 or 5 in the United States, they look at the wind speeds in miles an hour, which gets up to towards 300-400 miles an hour.
Yeah,
will rip the tar off the road.
Yeah, wow, it's crazy, right?
This ripped the synthetic track up. It pulled the track off the ground.
Yeah.
So in 7 and 8, where it went through, it pulled the track up. That's how powerful it was. And in my apartment, I thought the outdoor furniture started swirling and went up.
Yeah.
It was in a washing machine.
That's what happened to us as well, and that's the biggest concern. We got these notices to say everyone had to actually, you weren't even allowed to bolt your furniture down or put heavy weights on it. They said every bit of furniture in the community had to be brought inside.
Yeah. So anything that wasn't nailed down here was turned into a weapon.
Yeah.
At the top of the 100 Straight at Runaway Bay, there's all these huge safety glass panels, like it's glass, big sheets of it, all blown out. And as you know our gym is half outdoor and half indoor.
Yep.
Smashed.
Wow.
People working around the clock over the last 3 or 4 days just to get, and it's only half open. They're hopefully getting the rest of it open this coming week. But when you saw these big bolts that had snapped out of concrete and the grandstand, what it did to the grandstand, and it just. But when we were in it, it was just something. I'd never experienced anything like that.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Actually, never seen it. And I've seen the video. It was on Channel 7 News, Gold Coast News. Guy got a video of the tornado. Got video of it. Yeah, you can see it. It's and what actually happened, because it was like we had a 36 to 38 degree day, and a heap of cold air swept down through Tambourine over the mountains. So hit that warm air, that's it just spiraled. It turned into a funnel. And the wind speed it went from being just windy to this is like next level. Something's going on. It was really obvious.
Good for running, down the back straight if you've got a tailwind.
Yeah. Oh, it would have been, well, it would have been more than 10. It would have been like that day Gatlin had 10 industrial fans blowing him down the 100 straight.
Yeah.
50 plus wind. Would have been more than that.
Yeah, for sure.
Getting gusts up to 200 kilometers an hour. This is like, they weren't just snapping branches off trees. Whole massive trees that had been there for decades were pulled out of the ground.
Out of the ground, yeah.
Out of the ground. Yeah, it's
exactly what used to happen in Florida. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's surreal. It looked dystopic. It looked like Chernobyl.
Yeah.
It was really bad. So anyway, everyone's still mopping up. There's still people up here without power.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
We were just chatting before we jumped on air about just track at the moment, what's going on, and that you're running some multiple 250s, you said, yeah?
Yeah, I just wanted to test myself, and I know I've got to compete. I'm still entertaining the idea of, after Nationals in Hobart, to get to Sweden, to Gothenburg, because some of my other training partners who are good 400 meter runners want to put this relay together. I am considering trying to get fit enough to get over there and do it, because it would be my last hurrah in track.
So the plan is not to go. What are you thinking about going to the Bahamas as well?
I'm on the register for that, for the international relays. You know, they have those in the Bahamas, but I don't think I can do it. It's too far to get to, and for just one or two runs.
Yeah, it's a long way.
It's a long time away. It's a lot.
Well, so is Sweden, to be honest.
But at least I'm running my events.
Yeah.
Whereas it's so far away and so expensive to get to the Bahamas to run a couple of relays. I just don't think it's realistic.
And when is that?
May.
Yeah, it is tough to get to. I mean, flying away,
prepare and get to Gothenburg, which is a long way away.
Yeah.
So I think if I'm going to do anything, I've got to get myself fit enough to run. And it's so competitive in my age group. I've really got to run low 24s to get to a final for the two. I've got to run 54 flat or better to get to the final in a 400. And that doesn't mean you'll get a medal.
Yeah, yeah.
Then I've got to get in sort of the same shape I was in Finland to be in a chance.
Yeah.
And that's really hard. It's just really hard, and it hurts. Everything hurts more than it ever did.
That's what happens, mate.
Yeah, 400 meter training and just going through the reps to get you literally have to get to a point where you're lying on the track, you feel like you've just been run over by a tank, and you have to get back on the line and go again. You just have to.
Yeah.
And it's just awful. But there's just, like I said, and I said this yesterday to a guy on the track, someone was whinging about training, and I said, yeah, I still have on top of my number one search item on Google, easy ways to train for a 400, still coming up blank.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing's come up so far.
I think it pretty much applies to everything, right? And I think two things that you just said then is that as you get older, I mean, I've just realised it doesn't matter what type of training I do now, it just hurts. I'm just sore, and I've noticed it just in the last couple of years, probably like 3 years ago, I still felt I was recovering, but all of a sudden my recovery just got terrible, and I've got back to running a bit of distance. I've run 7K multiple times this week. I think I've got to try and run 12 on the weekend. I'm on this 10K running program at the moment. And it's really interesting. I thought this, in the back of my own mind, I thought, this is going to progressively get quicker pretty quickly. I'll get back to 10Ks. Man, I'm not making a dent in the times. I'm making a bit of a dent in the distance.
Yeah.
But in terms of the times I'm running, and I've gone back to this, as a methodology in the distance space that you should run, most of your work should be done substantially above what your target pace is. You do a lot of long, slow running.
Yeah.
And it's always been that way, but it's even shifted more that way now where, you do multiple runs during a week where it's very slow. You do one stride repeat day where you actually pick up the speed and actually run a little bit more like you're going to try and run.
Yeah.
And then one longer run. But my recovery is the killer. I did some leg weights yesterday. I just got up this morning. My hip flexors are freaking so tight and just can't move. So I think it's across the board, mate. And I think that just becomes the big thing. Look, it's in at every aspect of your life. It's about the recovery.
Always.
But definitely as you get older, that's all it becomes about, I believe.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in that space where been really trying to focus on my sleep, just to get into bed earlier. And I'll tell you what, it makes a massive difference.
Yes.
Huge difference. I feel so much better, and just making sure you rehydrate better throughout the day and just eating very consistent. I've chosen to eat pretty much the same food every day, so I kind of know the same calories and just what the amount of protein I get every day. It's made life so much easier. And I wonder what I'd feel like if I didn't do these particular things and focus on these things, how much worse I would actually feel given I'm doing more volume, no sort of speed work. But taking back to that point, I was going to ask you, hey, are you still doing the compression boots?
Yes, I did it yesterday.
Yeah, I did them the other day.
You mean the full leg sleeve?
Yeah, the full leg sleeve, yeah.
What'd you think?
Normatec or something?
Huh?
Normatec? Is that what they're called?
Oh, no, it's just Sports Recovery Centre here at Runaway Bay.
Yeah, the boots are called Normatec, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. The jury's out for me. I said to somebody that, they said, did you think there's a difference? And I said, look, and I was saying about you that you love them. And I said, if I was still sprinting and trying to make very small increments, I believe I'd be doing it all the time, because it's all about just that whatever improvement you can get anywhere, right? It's about making that small improvement. And if it's, 0.5%, you do it. I don't know. I don't know. For me, I went to a recovery centre. I did hot and cold bath, not the sauna. I did a hot and cold bath.
They're good.
I love cold water. I've just realised that I just love it.
It is good. It's the hot and cold if you do it properly.
Yeah.
When I do it properly, because I get that tingling right through my whole body.
Massive tingling, yeah.
Well, when you get that, which means the blood's reflushing back into your system, it's just particularly for 4-8 runners, expanding and contracting those little capillaries which deliver oxygen to muscles. If they're healthy, you're going to be a better runner. It's that simple.
Yeah, I was, and look, again, I'm just trying to find anything to help with my recovery at the moment. The only recovery centres in Manly is too far for me to go. It was a bloody disaster getting there. Just the Manly traffic these days, terrible. I'm thinking about getting a little ice bath at home. I've got a sauna in the building, so I use a sauna all the time now. And it's interesting some days in the sauna where you can't get a sweat up. It takes you a really long time to get sweating. And other days you walk in there, within 2 minutes, your body's just soaked,
Yeah.
Just how your body operates. And I don't know if it's due to, not being as well hydrated that day or not. But I think there's enough science around the hot cold now. And it seems to be more the sauna and the cold as opposed to hot water. And when I went to the recovery centre in Manly, I just did the hot bath and the cold. And I was doing like 5 or 6 minutes in the hot and then 3 minutes in the cold. I have to say, the first jump in the cold, my flipping ankles were just killing me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, you can make your own. I've got a mate here I coach his daughter, and he made his own ice bath out
cold,
of
yeah.
freezer.
A freezer, yeah.
A big chest freezer, and he climbs in that.
Mick's just bought one, and all you have to do is silicon them up. And is he just using the chest freezer and just plugging it in like a normal freezer?
Yeah, he just fills it up with water, turns it on, and it actually ices out. It doesn't freeze a whole block of ice. It just it gets about much ice that off, and then gets in it. But he gets it down to between 1 and 4 degrees.
That's too cold.
Yeah, I know. He's insane though. He gets in there. He's got himself up to. I said, "You be careful because you'll get hypothermic." He gets it up to. He said, "I can now withstand 3 minutes of it."
Yep.
And then his body starts to lose function.
I read all the science at the moment, and it's really interesting. There was a woman I watched a podcast with this Dr. Andrew Huberman, who's like the go-to scientist online at the moment. And they're basically saying the effect for cold is an accumulated 11 minutes per week. And that's what they're showing that your body, and it's between 9 and 11 degrees.
Yeah, I always thought like about 8 at the centre, the recovery centre. They have it around 8, and I think at the performance centre it's too warm. It's about 14. It's too warm.
Yeah, that's probably you're still getting benefit, I believe, because it's still colder than your body's still. It's a lot of it's still cold, exactly. Yeah, you go on the ocean at 15 degrees, and you're freaking in there for a few minutes and you're freezing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm big. I mean, you would love because where I live, the recovery centre is only literally 2 minutes up the road, but they've also got hyperbaric chamber.
Have you tried that?
Yep. Sitting there for an hour.
Yeah, I know. They've got one at Manly as well. It's an interesting piece of equipment, right?
It is, yeah, and it feels weird. You get in there and you're in a pod. It's sealed, and it's it's a unique experience. But apparently, there's good science around it. When I was recovering from some minor tears, I did it. They've also got cryo treatment.
Yeah.
The cryo intense cold treatment as well. So, but they got the infrared saunas and they got it's really good setup in the recovery centre. You'd like it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I can't wait to get up and have a look at it. But look, I think the sauna in the cold has definitely enough science around, and I notice more and more people are, because they're making these mini versions now. They're putting mini, like 2-person saunas in their backyard in a cold plunge, and it's they're popping up everywhere. And just a quick side note: during COVID, there was two guys that had. One of them had I think a yoga business or something in the US. They're in California. And the other one had some other type of health, more sports business. And they both obviously got shut down during COVID. One of them may have had some sort of recovery centre, but this is just before, cold plunges only boomed cold plunge at home in the last 2 years. Anyway, so they started to make a cold plunge. They were getting these requests for cold plunge. So they actually built their own rudimentary, really, really basic. And then they did the smartest thing ever. Once they got it to look like a decent, it's virtually a freezer, but they've wrapped it in timber panels or, one piece that made it look like a nice bath. And they went online to a bunch of Instagram people that were into health and fitness, and they sent them one. No, I don't know. They was making these prototypes, and they sent them to test. That was 3 years ago. They just hit $100 million in sales.
Wow.
In 3 years, Chris, $100 million out of ice baths.
Wow. Yeah.
That shows you how that market's just exploded. So, but I'm a believer, and I would actually, getting back to the freezer, I was going to say I should look up and tell your buddy that Mick's just made one at home as well. He's just got a freezer, but there's some guy in Queensland, because he ordered a kit from him, and it's a full thermometer kit. You plug it into the freezer. It has a thermometer to run the temperature, but it churns the water so it never freezes.
Oh, right. No, it's
a $300 pump that you run through it. And keeps the water, and virtually converts a freezer into a proper cold plunge for $300.
No, this guy's just done it from a dodgy fruiter from the good guy. And he's got to get an axe and chip off the ice before he gets in it. These guys, by the way, they're insane. They're just trying to test their body to the upper limits to see what they can withstand.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's like anything. It's like, those free divers?
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, there's a point where you just can't dive any deeper. You just die.
Yeah, or you can't get back.
So I think this is what he's going to find out one day, is that, there's the limit. And how do I know that? Because I'm dead.
Yeah.
That's how
I get out, I've got all these massive burns over my body, or something shuts down and I've had to amputate 3 toes.
Yeah, like he's just done an Everest climb because now he's lost all of his extremities. They just died. But the thing is, I don't, while I have a little bit of that in me in terms of finding out what I can do on a 400-meter track, I'm never stupid enough to pick a sport like those stupid game shows in Japan where they go, we're going to get 8 Japanese guys, get them to keep drinking beer, and the guy that wheezes first loses.
Yeah.
Like, some guy died doing that.
Yeah, I mean, seriously.
It's just the dumbest thing ever. Like, there's a point where you can say, here's a sport I do and I really want to reach my potential. And here's just a dumb activity I want to try and do to see if it'll kill me.
Yeah, exactly.
The cactuses.
Exactly.
But
going back to the Normatec boots,
yes.
I don't know if I see the benefit. I just don't know that it's not something I would now, having used them, I wouldn't rush out and buy a pair.
Well, I've got a question for you, because this is what I learned about, and see if you did this. First of all, for guys like you and I, when the guy puts them on, you have to say, do it to the max setting. That's the first thing. And it is the one that goes up your leg and down your leg?
Yep, correct, yep.
Right, so that's the right ones. Okay, but for you to get anything out of it, the same as me, because some people can't handle it on max.
Yep.
I can. It's not a problem for me. So every time I go in, I just say max, everything. And I think if you really wanted to feel benefit, you would need to have it on the max setting.
Yeah, which I didn't because it was the first time I'd been there. I think the max setting went to 7 on this, and I used a 5.
No, it's not good enough.
Yeah, okay.
7, and then when you come out, literally, it looks like your legs look like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, mine had that all over it, but just from the 5 even. But yeah, okay, that sort of makes sense.
Literally, it will look like a mosaic.
Yeah.
Of the pressure. But you will really feel, especially when it starts flushing all the way down to your foot and flush back. You on 7, you really know. I walk out and I go, oh man, that was terrific. But next time you do it, do a 7.
Yeah, as I said, I definitely can see the benefit. And if I was still track running and trying to break records or trying to, perform at my best, still peak performance, I'd actually, you think you'd do anything, right? And if it's a 1% gain, you just do it. It doesn't matter. But overall, like to sit there for half hour compared to how I felt from the hot and cold, I would choose the hot and cold for half an hour.
It's a different feel, and the hot, cold, and compression. I just find because with 400 meter work to do that compression flush, it helps me for my next session.
Yeah, sure. No, I can
me back on the track, but I do also get huge benefit from hot and cold. I mean, the amount of stuff like when you come up, we should go up to the center and do some stuff like the recovery center.
Yeah, I mean, you're fortunate where you don't worry. Every time I'm so excited about moving up there, to be honest. And every time I look at
minutes.
Yeah,
no,
yeah, it is. I mean, like where you position yourself living wise, it's actually it's such a great location because that gym's amazing. Your local gym and having the track there and everything else around you, and even to run. I mean, there's a guy that I follow on Instagram, and he's these new breed of hybrid athletes. And I kind of consider myself a bit of that these days. I still do strength training, still trying to stay pretty strong, but I'm trying to run more distance. And just running around, is it the Spit?
Yeah.
Around Main Beach? Yeah, so he does all his running there. Well, it's just so flat, just so good to go for runs there.
Well, there's 5 park runs up here.
Yeah.
And one of them is Main Beach Park Run, which is the Spit, and it's just flat. It's just perfect. Yeah. And they've put actually marks now on all the walkway. They've put the
kilometre marks.
Kilometre marks.
Yeah, nice.
Because it's so big up here on the coast now. And recently they just had before Christmas. They had the 50K and the 100K. I had a mate do the 50K. He trained for 6 weeks for it. That's all he did. Guess what happened to him? Oh my God, he did it. He's just because he's gutsy as. But he said, he walked me through all the various Ks where things started to go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So his hip, then his shoulder, then he had his foot blew up, I think at about the 35K mark. And he pushed through. He pushed through and he got it done.
Yeah, you're that far in, like you figured yourself, why stop now?
But there are thousands of people up here that do it, and people come from everywhere to do these events. Because the Gold Coast Marathon now and all the events surrounding it is the biggest in Australia now. So
it's so conducive, obviously weather-wise, not so much recently, but even for riding, we can just ride long distance flat, but then you can actually head west and go up to the hinterland and do some climbing. So it does have everything from an athlete's point of view. And I can see why athletes would actually, if you're really serious about your sport, you'd even move there. If you're into a particular sport like marathoning or distance cycling or something, or triathlon, you're actually better off living up there for sure. But the Performance Centre is a great spot. It's amazing.
You can get on a bike now and almost, with a few exceptions, have bike trail all the way to Currumbin.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
It's insane. Yeah. And mountain biking, which I've just this is my next thing for this year. I'll pick up a mountain bike off Marketplace, and because up in the hills up here, it's just incredible for riding.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm gonna do more adventure stuff. There's a lot of adventure stuff up here, which is really fun, where you get on the people that are organised. Like when I went to the first one, these people are so organised. They turn up with their mountain bikes. They've got all their clipboards on and their this and their GPSs, and they're all ready to go. Then they give you a map with all these things on it, like hints, and you've got to go out and find stuff in the mountains.
Yeah.
It's just heaps of fun. And they'll say, look for a burnt stump with this feature on it, and then it's and then it's 120 meters southwest of that.
Yeah.
And you got to find it, you know. It's just it just makes exercise different.
Yeah, for sure.
I really enjoy that, and that's I think where I'm headed post track career is to more of these mountain bike adventure days.
Yeah.
Which you can do as a team, you can do as an individual, and the amount of people that turn up to it, and they're weird people. Like,
yeah,
there's so many. There's people that do it like at this level, and then there's the full on people that just turn up with, $10,000 bikes and all the gear, and they're just full on. They're just like, mate, I am here to win this.
Yeah.
Whereas I came last.
It's nice doing a few different things. That mountain bike ride I did in the US. I mean, although I took it serious for me, I mean, nowhere near as serious I should have, given the fact that it took me 7 hours, and it was above, 3,000 meters the entire race. But it was good. And I look back in the last couple of years, I've done some good things, and even doing the High Rocks last year, that was a challenge and a half, and I'll probably go and do another one. So they've got one in Brisbane this year.
Yeah, right.
They've announced Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth. It's growing like wildfire at the moment, but and it's a challenging event. But that's why I'm doing so much running at the moment. One, I want to try and run a 10K fun run soon. I'll do a 5 first and then a 10. But also, you need that running background to do the High Rocks for sure, because it's 8 1-kilometer runs.
Yeah.
So
full
on. The other thing I just wanted to chat about is just gym. What sort of stuff are you doing in the gym these days? Do you push a sled at all?
I'm back to doing that now. Not only do I push it, I pull it.
Pull it, yeah. I was going to say, I've been reading a lot about walking backwards with a sled.
I do that. There's all these harness you can put on, Performance Center, and you walk and you go backwards.
Massive benefit, Chris. It's actually got, and in all honesty, if you had have asked me 2 years ago, I kind of would have said probably a bit of a waste of time. But now I've actually started to read a bit more about it and started to do it myself. You know what? It's funny enough, I would have thought straight away it's going to really get your hamstrings. It gets your quads.
Yeah.
Walking backwards. It hammers my quads.
It hammers my glutes.
Yeah.
And also my Achilles.
Yeah. It's definitely it's a very good exercise. And I think, and the one thing I like about it, and I've virtually given away squatting. I still do squatting, but with no weight. I just do a lot of air squats because in these High Rocks events, I've got to do these wall balls, go to 100 wall balls. But you can basically load up the sled with whatever type of weight you want. And if you can't push it, guess what? You can't push it. So you've got no physical load on your body, but you can still get a really good workout out of it.
Oh, yeah. I do a combination of push-pull.
Yes, that's what I do now. Most of my gym sessions, that's how I warm up. I just put light weight on and I just do push-pull for my warm-up.
Well, there's 2 sleds at the Performance Center, the heavy and a light. The heavy sled, if you're putting weight on that, then I don't know why, because it's hard to move. Even with no weight, this thing is heavy.
It's a proper sled with the whatever you call on the bottom. What's it look like?
Oh,
it's not one of those sleds with the big wheels on it though, and you can actually turn the motor.
No. But they've just got a big one and a little one. The little one you can put weight on and you can pull, but the big one, I find, just particularly for me, pulling and pushing it without weight is enough. And because for me, I'm also looking for leg turnover.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want too much weight where I'm just becoming an old pack horse.
Yeah, I just walk, obviously. But the other thing in High Rocks, we have to pull the sled with 100 kilos, and you have to push it with 155.
Jesus. Well, that also depends on the surface you're on too.
100% it does. Yeah, and every one of those synthetic turfs, they all grip differently.
Yeah, they do. Yes, they do.
And I was very lucky because I tested a couple and I trained between the Fitness First gyms here. Fitness First in Mossman, it's a bit grippy. Fitness First in the city, I would call what I would say like neutral. It slides pretty well. And then I've been to the one in St. Leonard's and it sticks. Yeah. Like I probably couldn't move 150 kilos.
Yeah. The surface counts.
Really counts.
It's on artificial grass, which is it's quite good. It doesn't sticky. So that's nice.
But obviously, the other thing that matters a bit as well, and that's what the word I was trying to think of before, the skids on the bottom, they have nylon on that skid. And when that skid starts to get a little bit worn, because some people do push them on the road, they just stick to different surfaces differently. But
just steel.
Yeah, you'll probably find it might just be steel. Some of them have the nylon on the bottom as well.
It's on the artificial grass, it's just steel.
There's a really good sled, and that's what I was trying to refer to before. We used to have them in the US, is that it looks like a miniature tractor nearly. So it's got rubber wheels on it. They're big rubber wheels. It's called the tank, I think. And it has a lever, and you just move the lever, and the lever then makes the wheels harder to turn. It's got a motor which slows it down.
Yeah.
And every time you put the lever, it might add 50 pounds.
Mm.
And if you move this lever into top position, you can't move this thing.
Yeah.
So it's quite a good piece of equipment because you can put it outdoor for a start so people can push them on the road because they've got a rubber wheel on them, but you can actually load them up by pressing this lever. So you can actually, the nice thing with that is because it's harder to pull with weight, obviously. So you can put the lever in one position to push it, take the lever off, then pull the opposite direction straight away without taking weights on and off.
Yeah, that's nice.
But I've really found it a good exercise, and I was just curious whether you've actually started to do it. And I think for a lot of aging athletes, it's a really nice substitute to squatting to get away from the rack and get the bar off your shoulders. And I've just realised every time I squat, I get a sore lower back now, and I'm just like, it's just not worth it.
I don't do it. I haven't squatted for a decade.
Yeah, I remember when you stopped. Yeah,
no point. But I can do other things and still get good benefit without the risk. So
yeah, for sure.
I just don't do it anymore. And the other thing I've changed with my training in the gym is I'm getting my reps up really high now.
Yeah, same.
30, 40 reps.
Yeah.
My weight down, and I'm just doing strength endurance.
Yeah.
Exercising my muscles to fatigue without doing heavy.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm back in a 20 rep range, sometimes 25. I'm training for high rock, so everything's high rep. You got to ski erg for a kilometre and row for a kilometre and all this sort of stuff. But I'm just finding it's so much better on my joints as well. I probably can't. It'd be interesting. No, it's probably not true. I was going to say I probably can't keep any muscle bulk on, but I've just started to lose muscle as I've got a little bit older. Anyway, I'm finding it harder and harder just to keep any sort of muscle size on. But I do find when I started to train just with weights again only, and I went to that high rep range, but I was still using a moderate weight. So I was still training to failure, but just at a high rep range. I actually think I got a little bit, put more muscle size on as opposed to trying to train heavy, where when I was younger, if I trained with heavier weights, I'd get more muscle bulk. And I know you always were the same. You said, when you train a little bit heavy, you just put on muscle straight away. But that definitely changes as you get older, trying to keep your muscle on. And we saw Pete, right, as Pete started to get that bit older, his body stayed the same, but his overall muscle bulk just, shrunk down. It is hard to maintain.
I'm still, and probably, I don't know, maybe it's just genetics, but if I lift heavy, I just get heavy.
It's interesting. I don't.
And I can't carry it in a 4.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm still focused on lean muscle. I just don't want to put any bulk on because I just know I get to the 250 meter mark and I feel sluggish and heavy and I can't carry it.
Yeah, for sure.
Even yesterday, I know we had to go and do a rep. And Anthony, this coach, said to this kid, listen, if you run a really good 150 now, I'll cancel the rest of the session if you can get me a PB out in your 150. So we've got on the line and run absolutely flat strap for 150 metres.
Yeah.
Kid. And we ran 18.1.
Wow.
It was quick. But I was absolutely balls to the wall, gone, smashed. I didn't have another step. I even felt my mechanics breaking down.
Yeah.
Because I was running so fast, I was just all over the shop.
All over the place, yeah.
and I was just trying to get to the end. But but that's but I actually know the benefit I get from that and the feeling I get from running really, really fast from 150 to 250 sorts me out.
Yeah.
It fixes everything. Like if I want to run a good 2 or a good 4, I've got to be very, very quick between 150 and 250. You just have to.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But the fact that I'm still hanging on to some of those times now is just more good luck than good management, even though I do a lot of smart things. I think it's just luck, genetics. I've been fortunate. I've had a ton of injuries in my career. It's just, it's just when you get to my age, there's I think a lot of luck involved.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
well, I think a lot of things, but I also think that, the big thing I've learned in life is that persistency really pays off. If you're persistent and consistent across so many things in life and just doing those same things over and over again. And I hear it all the time. I was with somebody the other day and I noticed they'd put on a fair bit of weight and they want to start losing some weight again. And they kind of asked me, what I eat and what I do. And obviously everyone thinks that we've got this miracle sort of formula. And I just quickly wrote out like my eating every day. And I said, just adjust this just accordingly. And I said, just as a bit of a thing, I would just track your calories for a week and just see where you lay, because most people don't understand. And then, I went and caught up the other day for a quick swim. And the first thing they do when we go to the cafe and grab a coffee, they buy a nice big blueberry and chocolate muffin. I'm like, well, I can't actually spoon feed you, right? So,
in their defence, but I'm working very hard. I mean, I will go and have a blueberry Danish, but I'm burning it. I'm on the track 6 days a week.
Yeah, look, and we all can have those sort of days when you sort of fall off the wagon occasionally, but they're consistently off the wagon and they get on the wagon. They only do the good things, once every 6 weeks and all the bad things in between. So then they wonder why nothing changes. So, but it's like everything. We've said this before, time and time again. Where you put your energy and focus is where you get the results, right? If you don't put your energy into something, nothing's going to change.
But if I had $1 for every person that came to me and said, "Oh no, I don't actually want to get any better. I just don't want to get any worse." So
yeah.
I want to stay exactly as I am, still eat and drink all this other shit, and I want you to just keep me here.
Yeah.
So I can do that, because that's the focus. That's the priority, is eating and drinking all of that. And I just need you to hold me at this level. I just can't go under it. And now that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. But I was shocked at how many people would say that.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing the amount of people that just how much we want. And look, we're all culprit in certain aspects. I've done it definitely in business. I wanted more out of business, and I find myself I don't put the energy in. Then I look at people that have done really well in business, and I find, they want more out of their health, but they won't put the energy in. So we've all got these, and I definitely trying to find that focus for me. But I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and then the guy, this Andrew Huberman, he's got the second or third largest podcast in the world at the moment. And he's a super smart guy. He's a neurologist and a ophthalmologist, and he does a lot of neuroscience stuff. And he interviewed David Goggins.
Oh, yeah.
And David Goggins doesn't do interviews, invariably, he just doesn't do them. And he jumped, and he knows this guy as well. And he did ask him, why he doesn't do interviews. And he said, I just have nothing to say to people. He said, I just do my thing. I'm actually not trying to motivate people. He said, yep, I make money from guest speaking or whatever else now. And he said, I've got a pretty good life. He said, but I do it for myself. None of this is actually for other people. He said, I just do it for myself. And anyway, he turned around and said to him, he's got a friend that's over 300 pounds. And this guy's super fit, the guy, the podcaster, Andrew Huberman. He said, I've got a friend who's over 300 pounds. What would you say to him, to help him? And David Goggins, I should send it to you. It's that. Seriously. If he's not prepared to help himself, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, exactly.
If he's getting up every day and looking in the mirror and thinking everything's okay, what the fuck? What am I going to do? And he just went on and on and on. And I thought it was harsh, but I'm like, it's the reality, And he said, I was over 300 pounds. He said, and I used to get up every freaking day and hate myself. And then one day I got up and I'm tired of hating myself. I'm not going to stop hating myself overnight, but I'm going to make a change. And, off he went and just made change. But yeah, it was actually quite funny listening to him, but just going off on his tangent. Well, but it's so true, right?
David Goggins, something crossed my feed the other day about David Goggins, because, I've watched a bit of him, but he was actually doing a talk, and some guy stood up. I don't know whether with this crossed your feed, you saw it. And he said, David, I want to ask you an unrelated question. And he said, I know we don't know each other, but I don't want, just say whatever you feel. And he said, but I woke up, this morning and my wife actually asked me for a divorce. He said, I'm not trying to offend you or upset you. I don't know you, but that's where you're at, mate. Move on. It's done.
Yeah.
Done. Move on.
Yeah, he's definitely an interesting character. I mean, and I was never a huge fan. I must admit, this podcast yesterday turned me for him because he did have some really sensible things to say. He just does, and he said he doesn't actually, the cussing in the language is not for attention. And when he explained, he said, it's just who I am. And he said, the reason I swear, he said, this is how I motivated myself. He said, I used to just pay out of myself, look at myself in the mirror and call myself everything under, you're fat, sort of, mother, whatever, just go off. And he said, that's how I got myself motivated. He said, so that's where this comes from. I'm not trying to impress or actually, offend anybody. It's just who I am. He said, but if you don't like it, just, you don't have to watch or listen or read. Just don't turn it off.
Yeah.
So, and it's so true. So,
yeah, I mean, it really irritates me. That's when you get people watching certain TV programs that they think are offensive because they want to complain about them. Yeah. It's still, most of us still live in free countries, specifically go there to get themselves into an outrage so they can be outraged.
Yeah.
The world will always beat you. You're not going to win the battle. I've fought so many battles I've lost because of just sheer stupidity.
Yeah.
Is
that changing?
Huh?
Have you changed?
I think I've learned. I still fight battles that I shouldn't be, but as I always say, it's waking up every morning and screaming at the sun because it's shining it's just stupid. Yeah. I still, to some extent, because I've got a committee meeting in another week where I'm going to go through the same process of looking at people that just don't share my views. So why am I trying to convince them of anything else?
Well, you can't, mate. That's the one thing I've learned, just in all aspects of life,
Don't want to be convinced.
No. And then I kind of get to the point, though, who am I to actually say that I'm right or wrong anyway? Yeah. It's just my opinion on something as well.
And it's not
responsibility. No, exactly. That's where I've got. It's not my responsibility to actually, and it's been interesting just with even some friends around me at the moment. I'm like, I've just got to make the decision. If I'm not getting enough out of the relationship, then I am in a position to change that completely. Or if there's enough in the relationship and I actually like it, and there's certain elements, and then there's this one part that I don't like, just leave that part. Just when that part comes up, just let it float past me. If I'm getting enough over here, I'm just going to accept that part. If I'm not getting enough out of it altogether and that part's really pissing me off, then I'll move on. But that's what I've realized. That's for me to change, and I was getting frustrated with so many things. It's like, well, that frustration's only on me. Yeah. So I take ownership and accountability. But anyway, all right. Well, we might leave it there. Good to chat and catch up. Hopefully get back on a bit of a schedule again and start knocking out a few pods.
Well, I'm here now. I'm here right through till the 28th of March. That's when I'm on a plane down to Hobart for Nationals.
Oh, yeah, good. Well, I'll definitely try and book a trip, and maybe I'll just hit you up and find out when you got some time, and I'll come up for a few days.
Well, any time between now and the 28th of March, I'm here.
Yeah, perfect. That'll work perfect for me.
I'm just all I'm doing, I'm just, everyone's starting to roll back from their holidays. And so I'm just coaching and training and doing all that shit. So, yeah.
All good. All right. That's a wrap.
Done.
See you, mate. Have a great day.
You too. Cheers.